Welcome to episode 2 of Islands in the League, our exclusive video series on YouTube presented by DraftKings. We are a few days past the All-Star break, a couple weeks past the trade deadline. Teams are gearing up for the stretch run. I thought it would be appropriate if we explored deadline-making moves, in-season trades, and which ones actually had an impact on a team's championship odds. We're also going to have a little fun with NBA refs. And, as always, we'll be joined by resident sports betting expert Josh Applebaum. Perhaps the most notable in-season...
You want me to ask you? I'm gonna prompt you. Oh. Hey, Jeju, what was the most notable?
It's funny because I'm thinking about the outtakes. Don't you fuck me on this, Jason.
Never have, never will.
Perhaps the most notable in-season trade directly related to a team's championship results happened in 1995. The Portland Trail Blazers decided to rebuild and traded Hall of Famer Clyde Drexler to the Houston Rockets. And while the Rockets struggled the rest of the regular season, going just 17-18 after acquiring Drexler and finishing with the 6th seed in the Western Conference, they won the Western Conference Championship and then swept the Orlando Magic in the 1995 NBA Finals. In 22 games in the playoffs, Drexler averaged 20 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal and a half, and shot 48% from the field. There's a lot of examples of in-season trades in the modern NBA era where teams hope to replicate the Houston Rockets' success with Clyde Drexler. Which trades worked? Which trades didn't? And why do I think the Kevin Durant trade is one of the most significant trades in NBA history? Stay tuned. To me, there's only actually 5 trades in the modern NBA era that have significantly impacted the NBA championship. Can I just say something real quick? The list is actually so fucking short. Trade number 1. In 2001, the Philadelphia 76ers were in first place. They somehow traded for all-star Dikembe Mutombo that year, with a package primarily centered around Theo Ratliff. The 76ers, of course, went on to win the Eastern Conference, and Mutombo valiantly battled Shaquille O'Neal in the NBA Finals, holding him to just 33 points a game, 16 rebounds, and 5 assists. Wait, what? Trade number 2. In 2004, the Detroit Pistons traded for Rasheed Wallace. Again, the Atlanta Hawks were the trading partner. Good for them. Atlanta Hawks. Can we talk about the Hawks? Wallace had made an All-Star game in 2000 and 2001 as a member of the Portland Trail Blazers. Once he got to Detroit, he was not the number 1 scoring option, but was significant in contribution. Wallace averaged 13 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 blocks as the Detroit Pistons went on to win the 2004 NBA championship. Wallace subsequently made 2 more All-Star appearances as a member of the Pistons. Didn't you think Rasheed Wallace got traded to the Detroit Pistons when he was like 35? He was 29, bro. Trade 3. Trade 3 is actually one of my favorite trades in NBA history. The Memphis Grizzlies traded Pau Gasol to the LA Lakers for a bunch of draft picks and his brother, Mark. The Lakers would go on to make the 2008 NBA Finals and lose to the Boston Celtics, but they would then win the 2009 and 2010 NBA championships, and Pau Gasol would make 3 All-Star appearances as a member of the Los Angeles Lakers. Why is this one of my favorite trades ever? Because adding Gasol helped Kobe Bryant win 2 more NBA championships and cemented his legacy as one of the all-time greats. Also, I love the Pau Gasol trade because of this. Where did I go wrong? I lost a friend somewhere along in the bitterness. Trade number 4. In 2019, the Memphis Grizzlies once again traded a Gasol brother. This time it was Mark to the Toronto Raptors. Now, Marc Gasol was past his prime. He was not in all-star form, but he had a huge defensive impact on the 2019 Toronto Raptors. That Raptors team famously won Game 7 in Toronto against the Philadelphia 76ers when Kawhi Leonard hit one of the most ridiculous buzzer beaters of all time. They would later go on to win the 2019 NBA championship. Trade number 5. While PJ Tucker was never an all-star player, his defensive skill set certainly helped the Milwaukee Bucks win the 2021 NBA championship. The Houston Rockets traded PJ to the Milwaukee Bucks shortly before the trade deadline. Remember when Tucker held Kevin Durant to just 48 points in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals? Wait, what? In all seriousness, PJ Tucker is the embodiment of someone that you want on your basketball team. Maximum effort, great culture guy, and impacts winning. There's actually one more example of a trade deadline that impacted a team's championship odds, and that was the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2018 when they basically kept LeBron and reshuffled the deck. They added shooting, they built that team around him, and despite a very shoddy defense, that team returned to the NBA Finals for the fourth straight year, losing ultimately to the Golden State Warriors. So again, of those five, Mutombo helped the Sixers get to the NBA championship. They didn't win. Rasheed Wallace helped the Pistons win an NBA championship. Pau Gasol helped the Lakers get to the NBA championship. They didn't win. They subsequently won the following 2 seasons. Marc Gasol helped the Raptors win an NBA championship, and our guy PJ Tucker helped the Bucks win. That's great news for all the NBA fans of teams that made trade deadline moves this year. But it doesn't always work that way. In fact, it rarely does. Here's a few NBA legends that were traded in season. Tim Hardaway from the Warriors to the Heat. Vince Carter from the Raptors to the Nets. Stephon Marbury from the Minnesota Timberwolves to the Nets. Gary Payton from the Sonics to the Bucks. Ray Allen from the Bucks to Seattle. Carmelo Anthony from the Nuggets to the Knicks. Jason Kidd, originally with the Mavs, to the Phoenix Suns. JJ Redick from the Magic to the Bucks. JJ Redick from
you were an NBA legend?
Wait, what? Allen Iverson from the Philadelphia 76ers to the Denver Nuggets. Shaquille O'Neal from the Heat to the Suns. Jimmy Butler from the T-Wolves to the 76ers. None of these trades resulted in an NBA Finals appearance, much less a championship. I'm not saying these teams didn't get better from these trades. In many cases, some of these players even left the following season in free agency. And there's examples where maybe a trade takes time. It takes time for that player to get comfortable. Maybe there was an injury. Maybe there's a new coach. A couple recent examples of that, of course, Andrew Wiggins getting traded to the Warriors in 2020, then winning an NBA championship as an All-Star last season in 2022, and last year's trade deadline with the Sacramento Kings and Indiana Pacers. Domantas Sabonis will likely be on the All-NBA team this year and has positioned the Sacramento Kings as a top team in the Western Conference. The second biggest trade this year was Kyrie Irving going from the Brooklyn Nets to the Dallas Mavericks. Of course, there's question marks about the fit and long-term viability of Kyrie Irving in Dallas with Luka Doncic. Will this team be a true championship contender? It remains to be seen. I'm just saying, it's more likely that Kyrie Irving to the Dallas Mavericks doesn't lead to an NBA championship. Sorry, Mavs Twitter. The only comparable player to Kevin Durant that has been traded in season in the modern NBA is James Harden. James is a 10-time All-Star, 7-time All-NBA, former MVP, 3-time scoring champ. He's also won an assist title and is leading the league in assists this year. So to recap, an in-season trade leading to a team winning an NBA championship, it's only happened a handful of times. And it's never been for the best player. Oftentimes, it's the second best player or an ancillary piece, which is why the Kevin Durant trade is fucking crazy. Now, I know I mentioned Shaq was traded in season. I'm not suggesting that Kevin Durant is better than Shaquille O'Neal. I don't know where they rank amongst the all-time greats. You guys get to decide that. I'll say this. When Shaq was traded in 2009 from the Miami Heat to the Phoenix Suns, he was past his prime. As for Kevin Durant, he's giving you 30, 7, and 5 on 56% shooting this season, plus the two-way defense. For someone playing at such a high level on a team like the Brooklyn Nets, who are a top 4 team in their conference, this is unprecedented that a player of his caliber would be traded in season. Real quick, 13-time All-Star, 4-time scoring champ, 2-time NBA Finals MVP and champion, 10 times All-NBA, MVP, 14 straight seasons averaging over 25 points per game. Only LeBron has a longer streak at 19. 4th all-time in career points per game, 14th all-time in points and rising. Will be in the top 10 before it's all said and done. When people talk about whether the Phoenix Suns are the favorites, they're absolutely the favorites to win the Western Conference and compete with either the Bucks or the Celtics for the NBA championship. It's not even a question. It's not even a question. Kevin Durant is that good. And when your second best player is Devin Booker, holy shit.
We just witnessed the greatest player to be traded in season since Wilt.
This trade was such an anomaly. You have to go back to 1965 to find a player of Kevin Durant's caliber who was traded in season. That time, it was Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain played for the Warriors. They started the season out 11-33. Now, some of this was because Wilt had some stomach issues before the season and had to be hospitalized, so he missed some early games. The team apparently stunk. So did the arena. They played where there were cows, apparently, and there was an aroma of shit all the time. And the team was losing money. The arena smelled like cow shit. It smelled like shit. Just to give you some perspective on Wilt Chamberlain, he averaged 39 and 23 that season, and they traded him. Wait, what? Now, again, for Wilt and the 76ers, there was not an immediate impact upon winning. It wasn't until 1967, one of the greatest teams of all time in NBA history, the 67 76ers went 67 and 15 and won the NBA championship. Sometimes these things take time. Every trade that happens gives teams hope. Whether you're dumping a player to get assets back, hope for the future, yay. Whether you're getting an impact player, hope for now, yay. But there's no team's fan base that should be more hopeful after this year's trade deadline than the Phoenix Suns. Kevin Durant is that good. There's actually one other reason why I'm hopeful for the Phoenix Suns. Here's the reality for every NBA super team that's been put together. These things take time. Chemistry is a real thing in basketball. Culture is a real thing. With the exception of the 2020 Los Angeles Lakers, when do super teams work? When at least one of the players of the big three were drafted by that team. Dwayne Wade, drafted by the Heat. Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, all drafted by the Golden State Warriors. Kyrie Irving, drafted by the Cavs. LeBron, also drafted by the Cavs, just went somewhere else for a while. Paul Pierce, drafted by that team. Tony Parker, Monty Ginobili, Tim Duncan, all drafted by the Spurs. The best teams in the NBA right now. Giannis, drafted by the Bucks. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, drafted by the Celtics. The Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic. Memphis Grizzlies, Ja Morant. You get my fucking point. And for this Phoenix Suns team, Devin Booker, drafted by the Suns. That's why I like it so much. But the gist of it is that there's a few examples of the modern NBA where trades actually, in-season trades worked. It's never been with the best player. And the last time somebody of Kevin Durant's resume got traded was Wilt Chamberlain. I don't really care what your feelings are about Kevin Durant. Here's the reality. He's a top 12, top 15 player of all time, having an historic shooting season, playing excellent two-way basketball. Him going to the Phoenix Suns absolutely makes them the favorites in the West. And this is quite possibly the craziest trade we've seen in NBA history. What about some other in-season trades? What about some other instances of teams hoping a trade would have that sort of impact? What about when teams were wrong? What about when teams really tricked it off? I've said this before, and I will say it again, and I really believe this. NBA referees are the best referees in any sport. The amount of shit that they have to deal with over a 2.5 hour period, I do not envy them. So let me just say that. I'm going to preface everything with that. But don't you think this is a little extra? Like everyone else, referees make mistakes. We made one at the end of last night's game, and that is gut-wrenching for us. This play will weigh heavily and cause sleepless nights as we strive to be the best referees we can be.
Here we go.
All right, let's go.
Kylie.
Yes.
Okay.
JJ?
We're recording. Can you take your shoes off? Come in here, Kylie.
What shoes? I come with Jackson Coffee the banana. I fucked it up so many times.
Camera's on. We're recording you.
You're live.
Joining us now via Zoom, funny man and resident sports betting expert Josh Applebaum from VSiN. Josh, thank you so much for joining us for episode 2 of Islands in the League. We are coming off what I consider to be the craziest trade deadline that I can remember. Certainly don't remember a trade deadline where not one, but 2 players of Kyrie and Kevin's caliber were traded from the same team and then went to the same conference. And I would assume that this is having huge implications on betting odds for the NBA championship as well as the Western Conference championship.
You're exactly right, JJ, and it's great to be with you on episode 2. And I think, when we're looking at winners and losers, I think, sometimes there can be kind of a public perception of, oh, this team won, this team lost. But I like to look at what the odds are saying, because the odds makers are the sharpest people in the room. They're going to set their numbers based upon their projections and how they're kind of mapping out how these trades are going to affect each team here. So we got to start with, as you mentioned, the 2 big trades here. And it was kind of funny too, Shams and Woj going back and forth. I remember the trade deadline day on Twitter. It was kind of insane. And I'm with you. It was kind of one of the most exciting trade deadlines that we've seen in recent memory. But in terms of the odds movement, number one, the biggest winner was the Phoenix Suns. Now the Phoenix Suns bring in Kevin Durant, Matt Ishbia taking over as the owner here, wanting to make a splash. Makes total sense here, and really trying to, take in a guy who can put him over the top and win him a championship. They were so close a couple of years ago, obviously against the Bucks there. Now trying to get back into the title game. So just from an odds standpoint change here, JJ, before the trade deadline, the Phoenix Suns were plus 1,800 to win the NBA title. So you bet $100, they win the title, you win $1,800. Pretty good right there. Now they're all the way down to plus 450. So that's the biggest move that we've seen of any team across the board. The Suns now have the second best odds to win the NBA title. They're only trailing the Boston Celtics, who are at plus 300 right now. We have seen out west better odds here to win the West. And again, there are different ways to bet futures. We'll get to some awards later in today's segment. But in terms of betting who's going to win the title, you can also bet just who will win the West. So now you do have the favorite here with the Phoenix Suns. They're plus 750. Now they're down to plus 245. They leapfrogged the Denver Nuggets here, who are just a little bit behind them. But now you're looking at kind of a core here, and you question the depth a little bit. But, JJ, you get to the playoffs, you don't really, play 10 guys. It's probably just your starting 5 and a couple bench guys coming in. But if you can throw out Kevin Durant, DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, who finally came back from injury, that's really the biggest move that we've seen here across the market. So, JJ, what do you think about that trade? Did they give up too much? I guess it doesn't matter if you go deep in the playoffs, but plus 1,800, now all the way down to plus 450. The Suns basically won the trade deadline.
I totally agree with you. We spoke in episode 1 about the outsized output of really great players and how there were only 5 active players who have been the best player on a championship team and won finals MVP. And Kevin Durant happens to be one of those guys. So if you have a chance to get him, assuming he is healthy, and that's my concern with the Suns, because there's been a few playoff runs where CP's had some health issues in the playoffs. Last year, Devin Booker had a hamstring injury. He's coming off this groin injury. And then, of course, Kevin Durant coming off this knee injury. That's my concern. In terms of a basketball fit, I think it's a beautiful fit. I also believe that the Phoenix Suns have enough three-point shooting as ancillary pieces. Torrey Craig likely will be that 5th guy. He's shooting 39.4%. Campaign, Landry Shamet, those guys around 38%. Damian Lee's having a fantastic season at 44%. So you've got these guys, they're all, the 3 main guys. They're all capable of making threes, of course, but they're going to live in the mid-range. They're going to shot create in the mid-range. There's going to be some hard decisions to be made when you game plan for this team, and when you game plan for Kevin Durant, given the amount of talent that he's going to have around him in Phoenix. And the last thing I want to say about the Phoenix Suns, the the odds have shifted so much around them over the last 2 seasons because they did at times look like the favorites last year. Disappointing playoffs against Dallas in the second round. Then they started out the season great, and with Booker in the lineup, they were 18-11. Then he goes out, and for a few weeks there, even when CP came back, they didn't look like a good team. They didn't look like a team that could get out of the first round of the playoffs. And now we're talking about them as the favorites to win the West and the second best odds overall to win the NBA championship.
Yeah, it's really been incredible here. And I think, the other team, if we just go from the Suns, the biggest leap from what their futures were prior to the deadline to now, the second one would be, as you mentioned, you alluded to it, Kyrie Irving. Kyrie requesting a trade. He got traded a little bit, a couple days before the deadline there. This is a big move here for the Dallas Mavericks. Again, had to give up quite a bit to get Kyrie. He will be a free agent, so can you sign him after the season? They've talked about how it's kind of a test trial run to see how Kyrie and Doncic will kind of coexist here. Obviously, Doncic, can do everything for you, but if you can get another ball handler, and Kyrie's been, spoken about as having one of the best handles that a lot of, players have seen here, then I think that takes a lot of pressure off of Luka Doncic. But what we've seen here, not as big of a move in terms of the line movement here, but if you look at what the Mavs were prior to the Kyrie move, they're plus 2,500. So $100 bet wins you 2,500 here if they're able to win the NBA title. Now they're all the way down to plus 1,600. So that's been not as huge of a move, obviously, as the Suns, but kind of under the radar. Another great player from the East going to the West. If you look at where Dallas is now at plus 1,600, they're kind of in the conversation as one of the best NBA title picks. They're trailing the Celtics, the Suns, the Bucks, the Nuggets. We'll get to these teams in a bit here. The 76ers, the Clippers, and then boom, the Mavericks plus 1,600. Right behind them would be the Memphis Grizzlies at plus 1,700. So I know from a Kyrie standpoint, what's interesting is I think the public perception is, he's a bad teammate or, he causes a lot of distractions. But JJ, everything I've heard from his teammates is that they love him. I'm a Celtics fan, and there's kind of a lot of, anti-Kyrie stuff going on with different things going on between the teams. But you talk to Jaylen Brown, Tatum, they all love this guy. So my question to you, JJ, would be, what is Kyrie's perception around the league? Is it more of a media thing, a fan thing? And will he have a big impact here on the Dallas Mavericks? We've seen their odds shift. Will he be a distraction here? And again, he will be playing for a contract. So I know that's really important when you move to a new team. You want to play well and get another big max deal. So your thoughts on Kyrie here, JJ? Well, another big move with the Mavericks. Doncic must be happy.
The perception amongst players is very different than the perception in media and from certain fans. I've had nothing but positive interactions and experiences with Kyrie, obviously a Duke guy. I've spoken with a number of teammates over the past, 10 years that loved him as a teammate. The question for me is always about the availability, because when Kyrie's on the basketball court, he's awesome, right? He's awesome. And he's proven to be an NBA champion. He has some big games in that 2016 finals and, of course, made the game winner in Game 7. I think the fit's going to be better than some people maybe thought, because Luka seems like early returns and everything I've read that he said seems like he's willing to get off the ball a little bit more. We know that Kyrie can play off the ball and has played off the ball both with LeBron and with Kevin Durant. So it seems like the fit with those two could be really great. I have questions about them defensively. If Maxi Kleber is back to his normal self defensively and can switch and move, coming off a significant hamstring injury, and can defend the rim, they really interest me. I have a hard time, figuratively speaking, betting against Luka Doncic. I really do. Given what he's done in the playoffs so early in his career, now he has a true Robin to his Batman, or whatever you want to call it. But if Luka's 1A, Kyrie is a 1B guy. Like that's how good I think this duo can be. Where do you see potential value in this futures market for NBA championship odds, or even conference odds for conference champions?
Yeah, so what's interesting, JJ, is, we're talking about odds movement that's already taken place. So if you're betting the Suns now plus 450, you're betting, obviously you look at the Mavs here at plus 1,600. you're getting, okay, a plus money payout, but the odds have moved so much that as bettors, we're trained to not just, bet something after the fact. You want to be proactive and look ahead and try to get a good number before it moves too much. So a couple teams I'm looking at in terms of value. Now, one would be the Denver Nuggets. I don't know how much more they have to do to get some love here, JJ, but this is a team that from start to finish had such a great year just in general. The Nuggets are now plus 800 here to win the NBA title. So they're behind the Celtics, the Suns, the Bucks. They have the fourth best odds overall. But Jokic obviously having an incredible year. We'll get to the MVP markets here in the second. Just notice that they are going to pick up Reggie Jackson here off of a buyout. So you're going to get another kind of a veteran guy who knows how to play in these big clutch situations. So I think a lot of love is obviously for the Suns, and deservedly so, with KD joining this, kind of stud starting lineup. But again, how much, value are we getting here at plus 800? I think, to me, I know obviously if the Suns win it all, you'd be like, hey, take the plus 450, but at plus 800, I think it's a good number for Denver, even if you get to kind of a hedging opportunity, if they're able to make a Western Conference final. Then the other team, JJ, it's incredible. As a Celtics fan, I'm getting a little bit worried about the Milwaukee Bucks. They are plus 600 right now. They've won 10 straight games. They just picked up Jay Crowder as a defensive guy. Another conversation, JJ, is what's up with all these second round picks? They're throwing around like they're nothing nowadays. But here's a guy who can defend, who can shoot the three. But the Bucks have been there. They have the pedigree. They won it a couple of years ago. Giannis is playing great. They've won 10 straight. Celtics, obviously, they're still the favorite here. That's the other thing. Like, we're looking at value. We're looking at lines that have moved. Celtics are plus 300. They're still the odds-on favorite here. And they were plus 350 just about a month ago. I think they improved a little bit just from the fact of, your big guys on the Nets now going out west. So maybe the path in the Eastern Conference maybe gets a little bit easier here. But JJ, if you're looking for value, and again, value is different from what you think will happen or what you expect to happen. It's more of, is there value in the number? Like at plus 800, should the Nuggets really be plus 600? That would be value to take the 800. You look at the Bucks 600. Should they be plus 400? That could be value as well. So either of those interest me, JJ, the Nuggets and the Bucks. And what do you think? Are we kind of sleeping on these two teams? They're not maybe getting all the headlines. Those are pretty good numbers and some pretty good teams right there.
If the Nuggets were, I think they're 39-17 as of this recording. If they were 56-0, they were probably still getting slept on a little bit, maybe even in the odds markets, but certainly by the average NBA fan. They just don't get enough love. And you mentioned Reggie Jackson. With them losing Bones Highland to the Clippers, he fills a need for them as a backup point guard. A position of need for them, even though they have Jokic, has always been a backup center. Ever since Plumlee left, they need that position. And Thomas Bryant, coming from the Lakers, I think fills a need for them. They became, to me, a more complete team, and they're a first-place team in the Western Conference right now. Truthfully, I like those odds at plus 800. The Bucks, you mentioned the word scary. I don't think players are scared or coaches are scared, or that's not like a word that we throw around, but it's a word fans throw around. And I think any team that thinks they can win an NBA championship this year should be scared of the Bucks. They should be scared of what the Bucks have done recently, what Giannis has done for a number of weeks now. He wasn't his normal efficient self for the first couple months of the season, and he's just been a monster as of late. And if Chris Middleton can be an approximation, 80-90% of what he was in his All-Star years, you add Jay Crowder, Drew Holiday playing as an All-Star this year, this is a team that's really good. And I think if I'm just saying who has a chance to win an NBA championship realistically, they're in the tier one. They're in the first tier, no doubt. This has been a great conversation, Josh. We appreciate the time. We'll see you for episode 3. Thanks, bud.
Looking forward to it, JJ. Thanks again.
All right. Thanks for watching episode 2 of Islands in the League, brought to you by DraftKings.